Good evening. For 27 years, 6 months and 6 days, he had been a prisoner. During that time, he became a legend, a symbol of black resistance to apartheid, and to many, he became a martyr. Tonight, he is a free man. Nelson Mandela.
A free man taking his first steps into a new South Africa.
What if one man could spend 27 years in prison?
What was the worst thing that happened to you in prison?
It is easy to forget the past, and I cannot answer your question.
And still emerge not with hatred, but with forgiveness. A man who went from prisoner to president, from being called a criminal to becoming one of the most respected leaders in human history. This is the story of Nelson Mandela, the man who fought against racism and changed the nation forever. Nelson Mandela was more than a political leader. He became a global symbol of freedom, equality, resistance, peace. But behind the legendary image was a life filled with struggle.
Are here to kill us.
Pain, sacrifice, and unimaginable hardship. This is the complete story of the man the world came to know as Madiba. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in the small village of Meso, South Africa. He was born into the Dambu royal family. But despite his family's status, life in South Africa was deeply unequal. As a child, Mandela experienced the traditions of African culture. He listened to stories of African heroes and dreamed of justice and leadership. At school, a teacher gave him the English name Nelson because colonial schools often replaced African names. Even as a young boy, Mandela understood something important. His people were not treated equally. Mandela later attended Fort Hare University, one of the few universities available to black students at the time. There, he became interested in politics and resistance. But South Africa was entering a dark period. A system called apartheid was growing stronger. Apartheid was a system of racial segregation. Black South Africans were denied basic rights, voting, equal education, freedom of movement. Mandela could not accept this injustice. He moved to Johannesburg, where he worked and studied law. Eventually, he became one of the country's first black lawyers, and his political journey truly began. In the 1940s, Mandela joined the African National Congress, also known as the ANC. The ANC fought against racial oppression. At first, Mandela believed in peaceful protest. He organized campaigns, strikes, and acts of civil disobedience. But the government responded violently. Police brutality increased. People were arrested, and peaceful demonstrations often ended in bloodshed. One event changed Mandela forever. The Sharpeville Massacre in 1960. Police opened fire on peaceful protesters. Dozens were killed. After this, Mandela began believing stronger action was necessary. Mandela helped create a militant wing of the ANC called Umkhonto weSizwe, meaning Spear of the Nation. Its goal was sabotage against government structures, not attacks on civilians. Mandela argued that peaceful resistance alone was no longer enough. The South African government labeled him dangerous. Soon, he became one of the most wanted men in the country. He secretly traveled across Africa and Europe, seeking support for the anti-apartheid struggle. But in 1962, Mandela was arrested. Mandela was put on trial alongside other activists. The government accused them of sabotage and conspiracy. During the famous Rivonia Trial, Mandela delivered one of the greatest speeches in history. He said, "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society." And then he declared, "It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." The court sentenced him to life imprisonment, and Mandela was sent to Robben Island. Mandela spent 27 years behind bars. Most of that time, on Robben Island, conditions were brutal. Prisoners worked long hours, breaking stones under the sun. Food was poor. Communication was limited. And Mandela was isolated from his family. But prison did not destroy him. It strengthened him. He continued studying, reading, and inspiring fellow prisoners. Even guards began respecting him. Outside prison, Mandela became an international symbol of resistance. The world demanded his freedom. Free Nelson Mandela became a global movement. By the 1980s, pressure on South Africa intensified. Countries imposed sanctions. Celebrities and world leaders supported Mandela. Musicians created songs demanding his release. The apartheid government was becoming weaker. And finally, in 1990, after 27 years, Nelson Mandela walked free. The moment shocked the world. Millions celebrated. But South Africa remained deeply divided. Many feared civil war. After decades of oppression, violence seemed inevitable. But Mandela chose peace. Instead of revenge, he called for reconciliation. He worked with South African President F.W. de Klerk. Together, they negotiated the end of apartheid. In 1993, both men received the Nobel Peace Prize. In 1994, South Africa held its first democratic election. For the first time, black citizens could vote freely. Nelson Mandela won and became the first black president of South Africa. The world watched history unfold. Mandela focused on unity, equality, healing the nation. One of his greatest achievements was preventing racial civil war. Mandela became one of the most respected figures in the world, not because he sought power, but because he chose forgiveness over hatred.com. He inspired millions through leadership, humility, courage. Even after leaving office, he continued humanitarian work, helping children, fighting poverty, and supporting peace. Nelson Mandela died on December 5, 2013, at the age of 95. World leaders honored him. Millions mourned him. But his message survived, a message of hope and humanity. Nelson Mandela's story is not just about politics. It's about resilience.com, sacrifice, and the power of forgiveness. A man imprisoned for nearly 3 decades, who emerged not seeking revenge, but peace. And maybe that is what made him truly extraordinary.
Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel.